Hi everyone, it's Lindsay at Close Calls Sports. We're going to combine a few Ask CCS elements today. We begin in the Dutch Baseball League. Runners at second and third, one out. This is a tag-up situation. The batter will hit a fly ball to center field. Both runners tag. The plate umpire will have responsibility for the lead runner, who scores because the throw is offline. After the play, the defensive team is going to appeal, saying that that lead runner left third base a little bit early. The plate umpire says, no, he was legal, and gives that safe sign to say everything's cool. The manager from the defensive team argues that, no, he left early. So, the first question from our Discord server was it really a good angle? And the answer to this is sort of individual for every umpire, right? You have to do what works for you. So for this play, what ends up happening is this plate umpire does something really smart. Watch his positioning. Sometimes we talk about sacrificing distance to get a good angle, and that's exactly what the plate umpire does here. He drops back, and doing so allows him to see both points that are interesting right now, the runner at third and the touch in the outfield. And then he comes right back to home plate. You want, as an umpire, to do an individual thing that allows you to see both that angle and have enough time to get back to home plate for the play at the plate, which is, by the way, the more important part of this play. The appeal may or may not happen, but the play at the plate is happening no matter what. Well, this was an offline throw, but you have to be ready for the potential of that no matter what. I have no problem with the plate umpire. As for the manager asking, saying, hey, go to your colleague for help, the field umpire, this is a crew of two, remember, is not even looking at that runner at third. His back is to the runner at third. The only thing that you might get together about here is potentially, well, what was the precise timing of the center fielder touching the ball, right? It's not about catching the ball. It's because if you bobble it, it doesn't matter. The rule is written where it's on first touch, that runner is allowed to take off for the next base or wherever they're going. So I have no problem with this crew not even getting together because there's nothing for the field umpire to even contribute. His back is to third base. The next part of this is about obstruction. We have a play where the runner is getting trapped between first and second. One of the middle infielders steps in the way, and obstruction type A is called. The question is, number one, should you have rejected the manager's protest on the field? Well, first of all, we can all agree this is obstruction 1 because the middle infielder impedes the progress of the runner during a rundown, so that's while a play is being made on the runner. The award for this is to award that runner the next base. This is not obstruction type B, so it's not a nullify the act on the obstructed runner situation. It's a award that runner the next base. At least it could have potentially been 2 bases had the obstruction affected that many. I digress. The question, of course, is on the manager coming out to protest. The argument goes on for a while. And when an argument like this goes on for a while, it's sort of like, at a certain point, you need to stop. Like, we've heard you. The call's not changing. We're done. And in this case, the manager decides, well, in that case, I'm protesting. Half the time, in my experience, now MLB doesn't allow protests under OBR anymore, but I see that this Dutch league still does allow protests. But under protests, half the time the manager doesn't know what they're protesting. They just don't like that something happened, but they don't know the rule, and they don't know what they're protesting. So in this situation, I don't know if the manager is protesting like type 1 versus type 2, because that would be a rules application that could be protested, although it would be denied because this is type 1. Or if the manager is just protesting that was an obstruction, in which case that's a judgment call and is not even eligible to be protested. So let's, for the sake of arguments here, say there was no obstruction. That's the argument from the manager. The runner was on the grass. Well, that can't be protested. But if your manager is so belligerent and insistent about this, if you have a national committee that handles protests, just kick it up the chain to them. Plate umpire here, just be the messenger and say, okay, fine, send it on to the league, and then be prepared to laugh yourself silly when the league comes back and says, this isn't even eligible for protest. What's this guy doing? The untold secret here is that you have to realize as an umpire, you know the rules, but so many people don't. And you don't want to be arrogant about that fact. You know it's true. You know that you have it, but also you don't want to be arrogant and say, hey, I know this, you don't, what are you doing? Give them their space. If they want to talk, if they want to argue or vent, and you know for sure that they're completely wrong, just entertain them. But at the end of the day, you know that the call is going to stay whatever the call is. And then in this situation, you know that the protest on a judgment call is going nowhere. Let them think for the rest of this game it's going somewhere. Because if that makes it easier to complete this game from a game management point of view, why not do it? I have no problem with what the crew did here in allowing the protest doing the P behind home plate. If it gets the game moving, if it gets the manager to calm down a little bit, do it. Screw it. Who cares? That's my new philosophy in officiating, by the way. It goes over really well on a basketball court. My philosophy is, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, this is just a game that potentially has millions of dollars on the line, but a game nonetheless. And if you don't care, chances are, what I found paradoxically, you tend to get more calls right if you don't care than if you put all this pressure on yourself to care in real time on the field. Care off the field, don't care on the field. I don't know if that makes sense or if I convey that at all properly or not, but I found that if I don't care on the field, and I do care in my education and my reviews off the field, it makes me a better official. Maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. One more clip. Okay. The batter bunts the ball, gets knocked back by the bunt, runs into the catcher. The umpire calls interference on the batter runner. Looks like the third out of the inning, declaring the batter runner out. The question is, well, what do we have? Remember, I go back to my 2 defaults of baseball. Simplify things. 1, the fielder has the right to field a batted ball. 2, at any other time, the runner has the right to run the bases. So if it's a batted ball and the fielder is impeded by a batter, runner, whomever, in fielding, you have interference. But at any other time, if a runner or batter runner is impeded by a fielder, then you have obstruction. I'm looking at this play and I'm thinking, sure, okay, so the catcher's the relevant fielder. It is a batted ball, but the catcher doesn't field the ball, the pitcher does. As an umpire, remember, you can protect one defensive player to give them privileges to field the ball. In my opinion, it looks like the pitcher would be the protected fielder here, especially with the catcher standing at home plate. So I have obstruction type A on the catcher. It's type A because the batter runner had not yet reached first base at the time. The penalty for which, of course, is to award the batter runner first base, and all other runners would get the bases that they would have achieved had obstruction not occurred. Similar to the obstruction type 2 penalty of nullifying the act. It's just in type A, it only applies to all the non-obstructed runners. But in this case, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, we're not having a fielded ball by the catcher. Catcher's not even trying. This can't be an arm wrister tangle-untangle situation because the catcher isn't trying to field the ball. The catcher just stops in front of home plate setting up for a play. But remember, if you're doing that, you're not protected. If you impede someone, if you stand in their base path and you cause some sort of hindrance, you are not, as a fielder, protected, and you are thus going to be called, you're liable for obstruction. This is obstruction. It's type 1 because the batter runner hadn't reached first base. I think that, like that runner from third base, squeeze play or whatever, he scores. You give that run. The runner that I saw, there was a runner like a rounding second or something. He gets to stay at second probably, and maybe go to third. I don't know. I don't see that. It's sort of a very narrow view of everything. But yeah, that's what I have on this play. Thanks for the questions. Again, we get these on Discord, on the Close Call Sports Discord server. Link in the description. Like and subscribe. All that fun stuff at Close Call Sports. We'll see you on the site.